Good afternoon, and
There you go.
welcome to our August 26, 2021 resident meeting, our quarterly resident meeting. I'm Harry Hobson, President and CEO of Plymouth Harbor, and we're Zooming another quarterly meeting. It looks a little lonely here in Pilgrim Hall, but I know we have quite a few of our residents on Zoom. And then also let me say that this resident meeting will be televised on 196 starting tomorrow, Friday, August 27th at 4 p.m. So that'll be tomorrow at 4 p.m. on channel 196. We've got some information to share with you today, an update. We're going to cover several items. We'll, in a moment, ask George McGonigal, our Vice President of Facilities, to give us the latest on our capital project, the window replacement. Beth Watson is going to provide some good information from the foundation, and I think you'll be very excited to see the next Harbor Light that comes out. Of course, Karen Novak will be here, and she'll be giving us a campus update. She'll be back also. I've got a few questions here that will relate to the pandemic. And then I'll talk a little bit about the workforce shortage that's across America, across Sarasota County, and certainly impacting us here at Plymouth Harbor. And as of yesterday, we went into a team member mandatory vaccine policy. So Tina Wilson is here, and she'll tell us a little bit more about that policy. And then I've got a special interview that I did earlier today that I'd like to share with all of you as well. So why don't we go ahead and begin with our major capital project right now, and that's the window replacement project, and I'll turn it over to George McGonigal.
Thank you, Harry. As everyone knows, we restarted the window installation project about 3 weeks ago, and I'm happy to report that so far it's going very smoothly and on schedule. We continue to have a commitment from our window supplier to keep the product coming ahead of us, and right now they're doing just that. As far as the crews, we've got a strong crew. We've been lucky weather-wise. We've had a couple days where our production wasn't as good as we had hoped, but we're able to catch that back up. Right now, it takes about 10 to 12 days per floor for us to complete the process. And right now we're finishing up the 20th floor, and we'll be starting the 19th floor next week. If everything continues to go well, we should be complete with the 9th floor by the end of the year. And again, if we stay on track, our goal is to complete the entire project by mid-April. So we'll keep you posted as things go along and if any of that changes. In the interim, obviously, we will continue to have the protection up on both the north and south side of the buildings, and we appreciate you all respecting the safety zones and staying out of those during the workday. Also during the workday, as you know, the pool is generally closed for the workdays. There is opportunity to swim before and after the workday. There will also be opportunities when we won't be on the south side of the building that will alert wellness, and they can schedule activities in the pool around that. But there is no set date for those. So it'll be as we determine the schedule kind of notification.
George, you're doing an excellent job with that, and I know the challenges today with the supply chain. And we had a meeting, it's been probably 6 weeks ago or so, with all the suppliers and the manufacturer. And so far, so good, as you mentioned. So good job.
Yeah, we are tracking very carefully their production and what we need from them. We've given them certain dates. I keep track of how many windows a week it's going to take for them to fulfill that commitment. And right now we're in good shape. So we're very pleased.
Thank you very much for your report today. I was spending a few minutes looking at the draft copy of the Harbor Light, which you'll see, I believe, next week. And it's got some exciting news, good news regarding the scholarship program, et cetera. So I've asked Beth to come here today and give us an update.
Thank you, Harry. I would love to give you an update. But first, you've just heard from George McGonigal, and it's a perfect time to publicly thank him and his amazing staff for helping us install the new Breaking Wave sculpture that now graces our entrance. And what a wonderful addition it is to our campus. And the new landscaping changes only add to the beauty of the piece. His team is hard at work at installing the new uplighting, and I am hard at work at drafting a plaque for the base of it. And once those two are completed, we will be having a ribbon cutting ceremony for all to enjoy. I have to thank the Public Art Committee, who worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic and making this art installation a possibility. I'd also like to thank board member Guy Peterson, who is an architect, for his guidance and advice. And when visitation is relaxed on campus, we will certainly bring back the artist Clayton Schwartz into Pilgrim Hall for a small talk and reception. So thank you everyone who helped work on this public art installation. I think the piece came out beautiful. So now I will turn to what Harry was talking about earlier about our scholarship program. So Plymouth Harbor Foundation has completed yet another record-breaking year of scholarship activity. More resident named scholarships were available, more team members and their children applied, and more funds were distributed since the inception of the scholarship program in 2013. Now, since the scholarship program began, I am pleased to report that nearly $250,000 has been distributed to over 100 team members and their children. This year alone, we distributed over $75,000 to 26 individuals in the form of foundation scholarships, the Harry and Nancy Hobson Leadership Development Grants, and the Bernard and Mildred Charitable Trust Scholarship. As Harry mentioned, you will have a chance to meet them all, at least on paper, as they will be featured on the cover of the September Harbor Lights. And I am continually overwhelmed at the generosity of all the resident donors who help elevate our team members and children with the gift of an education. So thank you. It means the world to them. Next year, the foundation will celebrate its 10th anniversary, and we look forward to another prosperous year and scholarship season. So the last bit of news that I just wanted to announce is that, the spirit of philanthropy and the season of gratitude will soon be upon us this fall, and the foundation will be appealing to all of you for a year-end gift. So thank you in advance for your consideration of a gift to the foundation to help support the mission of Plymouth Harbor and its incredibly dedicated staff. Thank you.
Beth, we were talking last evening at our meeting of the Board of Trustees, and we alluded to the fact that we do have a judging committee that helps you as far as the scholarships are concerned. And I was particularly taken by the nice comment by one of our trustees who expressed it being an honor to be on that committee. Do you recall that?
It is Rebecca Levy-Sachs is our board member, and she helped me out with the selection process this year as she did last year. And honestly, I think her words were, it's the best experience of her life so far. It just is very endearing to her heart to hear all the dreams and aspirations of our employees and their children. So I think she's coming back next year to help again.
Excellent. Beth, thank you very much again for your hard work. If some of you have walked past Beth's office last month and for several weeks, you saw lots of papers and piles, and most of that related to the whole scholarship application and selection process. So thank you for your hard work on that. What I'd like to do now is bring someone up who's kind of a household word around here. I think that's a compliment. And that's Karen Novak. And Karen's going to give us a COVID campus update, and then she'll hang around a little bit as we get into some of these other topics that are also related. So, Karen?
Well, our numbers are looking a lot better than they were the last few weeks. We currently have one resident that is positive, currently in the COVID unit in the Smith Care Center. We have one resident that is under observation, doing quite well. We have 8 team members that are out being positive, and they too are doing okay. We have 5 of our team members that are under observation at this time. But I have to share with you, Plymouth Harbor is embarking upon something really exciting for our residents, as well as a great learning opportunity for our team members in the Smith Care Center. Today, we're going to be giving our first dose of Regeneron. Regeneron is a monoclonal antibody. It's a lab-created antibody that will help the resident that is positive, help them boost their antibodies to really fight off that COVID virus so that the symptoms won't be quite so intense and that resident doesn't have to go to the hospital. So we're very excited. PharMerica, our pharmacy partner, is going to be delivering the dose this afternoon, and our nurses in the Smith Care Center will be giving it. So, Harry, it's a great start for us here at Plymouth Harbor.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. And we'll just ask you to hang around for a little while. What I'd like to do is spend some time now talking about the workforce challenges that's facing not only Plymouth Harbor, but if you're looking at social media, mainstream media, cable news, you see it. It's all over the country, and certainly impacts us here in the Sarasota area. And that's just the deficit as far as the numbers of available workforce. And we spoke about that yesterday with both our finance committee and our board of trustees, and I shared those challenges with them. We talked about what are the big challenges that our present team members are facing, and to say that they are being stretched to the limit is probably an understatement. And you say why? Well, you know, what we shared was that it's everything from child care issues and other family-related issues during the pandemic. Recently, we've had more than one team member who sent their child off to school, and guess what? Brought COVID or a positive test back home. Well, that indirectly was acquired and then does impact Plymouth Harbor. Working short-staffed, as I mentioned before. Compensation issues, probably one of the key ones right now. And if you look around, compensation is just on such an upward trajectory. It's about supply and demand. And I've seen some incredible numbers that are being paid around the country, not only in other industries, but our specific field. So that's an issue. And we need to deal with that compensation issue for many of our departments here in non-management positions. Also, as I mentioned, not only team member burnout, but at an alarming rate across the country, we're seeing more and more individuals leave the industry, and that's not good. We've got to improve things, and we need to keep people here. Well, something that's very important to Plymouth Harbor, it's important to all of you and your families, and that is vaccines. Not only for yourselves, because our residents are 100% vaccinated, but our team members as well. Now that number's inching up. I think today we're just south of 77% of our team members who are vaccinated, but we're trying to get that number as close to 100% as possible. So as you know, last week we announced that Plymouth Harbor would be implementing a mandatory team member vaccine policy. And that indeed did become policy effective yesterday. And what that means specifically, I'll have Tina here in a few minutes talk about that. And then once we get through that piece, it's dealing with the competitive pay issue. And the board did approve administration's recommendation yesterday to increase the salaries of our nursing personnel, CNAs and nurses, dining services, housekeeping, safety services, and maintenance. So that is coming, and that'll be again formally announced after this meeting. And that's our attempt as we are competing with so many other communities and hospitals for staff. The number one reason that they're not coming here is because we've slipped on some of that compensation. So we're going to right size now, and that'll be coming back very, very soon. So, Tina, I think what I'd like to do is kind of dovetail now into talking about the mandatory vaccine policy. If you could give us some highlights for that and what our team members are, the steps that they go through right now.
Sure. Thank you, Harry. The policy, as Harry mentioned, went into effect yesterday, and so we distributed copies of that. It's very lengthy for one of our policies, 4 pages, but there's a lot of information that needed to go into that. And it became effective yesterday on August 25th. And I'll read just a very brief portion of it. It states that all current team members, contract staff, volunteers, and persons doing business within Plymouth Harbor must be fully COVID vaccinated by October 1st in order to continue their association with Plymouth Harbor. So what does that mean? For team members, they have the ability to apply for an exemption. There's a medical exemption if somebody has a health condition and their physician says this wouldn't be safe for you to get the vaccination. That would allow them to have an exemption. They wouldn't have to, and they'll stay working here, but they might have to be tested more frequently and certainly wear certain kinds of masks. There's also a religious exemption that people can apply for. We'll look at those on a case-by-case basis. They'll have to come to Human Resources and fill out the forms and have it signed off either by their doctor or their religious leader, because we want to make sure that this is somebody who's truly following a religious religion, and their religious doctrine states in there that this is not something that they ascribe to. So those are 2 exceptions. When it comes to vendors and contractors, we have a lot of outside companies that come in here on a daily basis and do work within Plymouth Harbor. A lot of them in maintenance and facilities, health services, agencies, that sort of thing. We're expecting them to comply with this as well. And we're contacting all of them now. I heard from Rose just before I came up here that she's already gotten a response from one of maintenance, a company that's worked with Plymouth Harbor for as long as I've been here. They've been here forever. And the response was, we absolutely will not comply with this. So we will sever our relationship with them. It's just that simple. And then privately employed people, this is something that will affect residents. If you're a resident who brings in someone as a private duty person that you pay just them, it's a personal relationship, their employment relationship, or say a housekeeper, somebody like that, they too will be expected to comply with this policy. So it covers the whole gamut. We want to make Plymouth Harbor as safe as we possibly can, and that means everybody who enters our building. We also today distributed a second follow-up form because, as Harry mentioned, this is a really critical transition for us. We have the potential to lose quite a few of our team members, and we need to get a handle on how many people that's going to be so we can start our planning. So this form was called a Team Member COVID-19 Vaccination Status and Intent, and there were 4 options that team members can pick from. The first one is, I'm fully vaccinated, and Plymouth Harbor HR department already has a copy of my record. The second one is, I am not vaccinated but intend to be before October 1st. The third one is, I plan to request an exemption. And the fourth one was, I'm still undecided about my plans. These were all due back to HR by September 6th, next Friday. So by that time, we should have a pretty good handle on what we're facing and what we need to plan for. So.
And Tina, we've got, it was very methodical how we developed the policy and how we're implementing it. And we've got at least 3 task forces that we've set up. and that includes the team member recruitment and hiring task force. And Tina obviously is a very key member of that. So once we get a feel what our turnover might be, we are doing a marketing type approach to recruitment of our new team members. And I think having a much more competitive compensation is going to help us tremendously. And then we've got another task force, and that task force is called Team Member Separation Task Force. And it can be done in a very orderly way. And that's for the team members who make the decision that they don't want to be vaccinated and they'll be leaving Plymouth Harbor. So we'll be working with them and on as far as separating from Plymouth Harbor. And they're not bad people, they're good people, and we want to remain friends even though we go through this separation. And then the other task force is the Religious and Medical Exemption Task Force, and they will be charged with reviewing each, if there's any medical or any religious, and then pursuing those. Now, those aren't automatic, okay, and I want to make that very clear. So because someone may want a medical or a religious, okay, those will be reviewed, and then if it is felt that the team member, their situation poses a health threat to those around them, other team members, residents, etc., then we would have to decline on approving that. So it's a very methodical process that we're going through right now. And as I said in my update with Karen last week, I was very pleased and I learned a lot sitting down with quite a few of our team members. I'll continue to do that on a one-on-one basis and really get a handle on why the reluctance. And but I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised how many of the unvaccinated team members, and I think, Tina, that number is 60.
We're at 66 right now.
66 unvaccinated team members, and I think we're going to keep most of them. So I hope so. They're good people. They really are. You know, as we talk about this and we talk about the workforce shortage, what I want to mention too is that there's no doubt that we are experiencing a slowdown in response time on resident needs. In some cases, in some bedside assistance, not emergency, but a slowdown. Also with assistance with residents who need assistance with activities of daily living. Those residents that might be in assisted living or our memory care or home care areas. There's no question, and I've said this before, the new word is queue. And so often we've gone from saying we'll be right there to we'll put it in the queue because we just don't have the team members to respond as quickly as we had done at one time. We're going to bring that back, but that's going to take a while. And that relates primarily in the maintenance requests, housekeeping services, some of the transportation needs, and delivering the dining experience we really want. And one of the difficult things here is to competently manage your expectations, the resident expectations. So I appreciate your cooperation in understanding where we are. We're doing the best we can, you know. And I'm thinking of two team members I met with last week. One in particular, and who said when I asked a question, "What are your plans regarding the vaccine?" and the individual said, "Mr. Hobson, I can't even think about that question right now because I'm working a lot of hours. I'm stretched because we're short right now, and I can't even focus on that question." She's also a single parent and has those challenges as well. So it's going to get better, but it's going to take an effort, and we're energized to do that. I can assure you. You know, we did receive a handful of questions, so let me go ahead and touch on those right now. The first question that came up is, in light of the menu reductions due to staff shortages, can our monthly minimums also be reduced temporarily? Now, this question related to the inability to use up residents' built-up unspent minimums, since residents cannot invite guests or join them or sponsor a party. Now, we've announced and we are planning to refund in fiscal year 2021 outstanding dining balances. So whatever is out there and you can't use, we will be putting those against your monthly service fees to make you whole on that. Now, regarding next year, then what we need to do is we'll be looking at the same issue. We'll see how we're progressing through the year. And if it appears as though we're not going to be able to give you opportunities to meet those minimums, then we'll probably pursue that same thing. It's important to us to make you whole on this as well. But what Curtis wanted me to mention also to you is that his team has begun talks regarding increasing the variety of menu options we can serve for our residents. So, and that's a gradual process, and it's important for you to know that he's working on that. The other question came up, Karen, was, do we anticipate keeping the Mayflower dining room and the wellness center open? And what I can tell you, that's one of the areas that, two areas that we took particularly note to last year. What I mean by that is that socialization and resident engagement is so important. And when we had to close those two areas, there's no question that it bothered all of us. So we're keeping those two areas open as long as we can. But Karen is constantly keeping the numbers in front of us. And we may get to a time, we're not planning on it right now, but if the numbers continue to go up in Sarasota County, we're going to be left with no alternative but to cut back on some of those amenities. Let's talk about visitors. And it says when we might expect to open campus back up to inside fully vaccinated guests. Right now, we have no immediate plans to reopen the independent areas and to outside guests other than for end of life or medical purposes. And this also means overnight guests are just not permitted right now. We have to get a hold of this pandemic, and that's one of the port of entries to it. So we have to do that. The question also comes up, well, what about outside contractors? I think Tina mentioned some of that earlier, and absolutely it does. Now, what did we learn? A year ago, we didn't have a book to refer to. This year we do. So one thing we looked at is to say, what caused us our most indigestion last year regarding that. And that was that we recognized that we had to make some exceptions last year. So we're going into it this year, eyes wide open. So when we say that contractors fully vaccinated, there's going to be some exceptions to that. As, for example, we're not going to stop the window project, and they're working on the outside. But you'll also, from time to time, you'll come to us because marketing will say, but I've got a resident ready to move in, and we've got to allow the movers in. So, that will fall into a category, and we'll build that category thoughtfully and slowly so not to create more undue pressure on anyone. Now, when we do that, what that means is, let's use movers, for example, that will be pre-scheduled like it always is, but it's going to be from point A to point B to point A. It has to be. And then, as Karen will definitely share with you, they must be fully masked with their PPE. So, Karen, is there anything else that we wanted to emphasize? We talked quite a bit about different things related to visitations and questions that you get. I think the most important thing I want to come out of this meeting with regard to visitors is that, yes, we are definitely closing the door on guests again. For how long we all are watching the same numbers. So anything else you might want to add?
You know, we're looking at a community positivity rate of Sarasota County of almost 20%, and that's incredibly high. That CDC has Sarasota County and pretty much all of Florida at a very high risk. Know that that Delta variant is out there. It is highly infectious. We are starting to see some of those, I want to say, breakthrough cases with those that are fully vaccinated. We really need to be very cautious and very protective because we want you all to be very, very safe. So you got to remember, when you're out in the public, remember to wear that mask. That mask is your defense on preventing that virus from coming into you. So please don't forget that mask. As soon as you leave your apartment, don your mask and keep it on when you're out in the public arena.
Thank you, Karen. What I'd like to do now is shift gears just a little bit. And we all know the coping stress, anxiety we're feeling regarding the pandemic. It's been a long time. And you know, it's going to continue for a while. And we were fortunate enough to reconnect with a dear friend and colleague, Dr. Francis Battisti. And I've mentioned Francis before. Some of you have seen him on videos. Dr. Battisti was just with us again earlier this week in follow-up sessions with our management team, our supervisory council. That's some 33 or 34 managers here at Plymouth Harbor. We met back in May. We met again this week. And he really gives us opportunities to reflect and in a manner that we can embrace the future much differently. Now, I mentioned that because I've got an interview that I did earlier today with Francis. I'd like to play that now so you'll get an idea who Dr. Battisti is, what he's doing for us. And you'll hear me say it at the end of the video. I'll say it now too. We're not stopping with our supervisory council. We're going to be introducing Dr. Battisti as a part of our resident engagement and re-engagement program here. And also, we're going to move his philosophy through the organization beyond the managers to really help us, as I said before, just be in a better position to embrace the future. So I'm going to ask Stephen if he could go ahead and play the interview. Hello, I'm Harry Hobson, President and CEO of Plymouth Harbor, and I'm joined today by Dr. Francis Battisti, who's a dear friend and colleague, and has worked with me over the years in various aspects of leadership development, and also coming up with coping strategies, if you will, for some turbulent times, not unlike we're facing today during the pandemic. Dr. B, as I call him, Dr. B has been working more recently with our leadership team and trying to look at where we've been over a year and a half, and look for the lessons, things that we've learned, and how to move that forward today. And I've asked Dr. B to join me today and just share some of your thoughts, if you will, regarding what's going on in the world.
Right. Well, Harry, good to be here. Thank you very much. Yes, what's going on in the world? There's a lot going on. But you know, all of us have seen a lot of changes over our entire life. But right now, I think it's occurring much more rapidly. You know, when I first started speaking years ago, we would say we used to take 30 years to evolve, took like 10 years, and then it got down to 3 years. Now we see things changing daily. And I think that's the basic point right now, that all of us like to feel in control of our lives, where we live, things around us. And I'm sure many of the residents are people who have had that impact in their life. And suddenly, with this virus, we don't have that control. Things are changing daily. And really, that's what part of my message is is to step back, reflect on, where are we right now? Where have we been and where do we want to go? Uh, One of the things I encourage people is to think back over their lives, their rich lives, and think about other situations when you really felt it was out of control. And what did you do personally? What were the personal strengths that you tapped into that helped you through that turbulent time? And those are the kinds of things that we want to pull up today because, whether we're working with the staff, working with families, working with residents, all of us have a part in being able to move through this pandemic into better times.
Francis, you met with our leadership team about 3.5 months ago, and we were coming out of this such acute time with the pandemic. And I was so impressed, as others were, how you were able to get a group of 32 to 34 managers to sit back, reflect, and really pull out the good things, the things that we can build upon that happened to us over the past year. As I think about our residents, and you'll be involved with Nancy Hobson, Karen Novak, and Beth Watson as we begin to launch our resident re-engagement initiative. But I'm bothered so often by when we say no visitors. We need to restrict this area, and people begin to clam up. And I don't like that. They don't like that. How can we keep people safe,
Right.
but also safe from isolation?
Mhm. Right. And that's a key point. We're always talking about, the engagement with others. In fact, if you look at all kinds of studies, the more engaged we are, and it doesn't mean you have to have 100 friends, but engaged you are with one other person or maybe a group, how healthy that is. So you're right. We're on a real difficult point here. But I think one of the things we have too is technology. To really to reach out to people. And if we don't know how to use that, I'm sure there are people on the staff that can help people with that. And that it might not be the best. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not going to get into that. It's not as good as meeting people in person. You're right. Sometimes it isn't. But you can reach people at a much further rate than anyone else. I can remember years ago when we would call Italy, where my father was from. And I asked him, I said, when you used to call before, try to connect with your family, how long would it take? He said, oh, about a week by the time we made the call and everything. And some of you might remember those times. Now with a cell phone, he was able to connect with them in minutes. Is it as good as having a face-to-face? No, but it's something that's really helpful. Also, and I know the configuration, like in the buildings, you might be able to open up your door, and stay within your own place and say hello to people, check people out, maybe do your exercises there. Have to be creative in all of this. Also, if we're fortunate enough to know younger people, maybe grandchildren, they can give us a whole idea of how to do things. Two of my grandchildren really like TikTok. So I had them actually come with me a few weeks ago when I spoke. And I said, it's not going to be on TikTok for sure, but they made a video. And then within 15 minutes, they sent it back to me. And I said, this looks pretty good. So there are things we can do. And I find and I'm sure people find this, through crises, we find out new things about ourselves. Some things we really like and some things we might not like. Well, that gives us some more work to be done. But when we find out things that we like about ourselves and the strengths we bring forward, we need to celebrate that. And I am sure a lot of people have learned a lot of things about themselves that they can celebrate.
Absolutely. And thank you for that insight. And actually, Dr. B, immediately following this meeting, I'll be attending a committee meeting with our resident reengagement committee, and we're beginning to work with a company on virtual reality. So we're taking our technology, okay, into virtual and augmented reality, and really trying to create a real world experience and interaction with people. And hopefully we'll be able to launch a platform on that within maybe the next 30 to 60 days.
Excellent.
Well, today was kind of a preview. I wanted our residents and others to have the opportunity to meet you, Francis, and also to, well, once again, I've done it several times, welcome you aboard as a partner here at Plymouth Harbor. And I really look forward to, obviously, more interactions with our leadership team. We will begin to work with our residents as well. And I'm not forgetting the rest of our team members. And we talked a little bit about that last evening at our board meeting. And we're going to ask you to help open some doors in that direction as well.
Sounds good.
So thank you so much for taking the time for this introduction. And I look forward to seeing you again in person very soon.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much. See you again.
Thank you. Now you're asking yourself, is this the real Harry Hobson or is this the one on the video? This is real. You'll get to see more of Dr. B. And I think you'll respect his point of view. He's a great listener, and he's got a body of knowledge that he can do, listen, and then develop an approach and help all of us. And we've spent the last 40 minutes, we've talked about our window project update. That's going in the right direction right now. So we're not dealing with hurricanes or anything like that. We're going to just move ahead. Great news on the foundation front. Wow. A lot going on there with the scholarships. And you know, I came in early one of these mornings. It was dark out, and to just watch the new sculpture out front is all lit up is really, really rewarding to see. So if you haven't seen it at night, I urge you to try to do so. Karen has always gave us a good COVID update, campus update, and gave us our reminders on being very, very cautious out there. We're going to get through this, but it's only going to be because of all of our efforts. And thank you for Tina and your hard work on putting together this team member vaccine policy. You've been working tirelessly on this, and I appreciate that. It's a good policy, and I have to tell you, when the policy went out, the announcement last week, I got a note. Kim will tell you from one of our team members that literally said, Mr. Hobson, I'm so excited to see that we're doing a mandatory vaccine policy. She said, I began crying when I heard that with joy. So it's the thing to do. We will get through that phase together. And then, of course, closing out with Dr. B, Dr. Battisti. And it's very exciting that he'll continue to be with us for the rest of this time. So I want to thank all of you who tuned in for this quarterly resident meeting. And it will, let me say it again, it'll be on 196 beginning tomorrow. That's Friday, August 27th at 4 p.m. So thank you very much, and have patience with us and our team members. We're going to put a lot of things in the queue, but we'll get there. Thank you very much.